I'm speaking with Adam I was going to say Soltis. I knew I was going to mess it up. It's Soltis.
All good.
Soltis. Soltis.
Actually, I don't really know how to pronounce it because it's a Polish name and I don't speak any Polish. So
okay.
my parents always pronounced it Saltese. But I'm sure
Saltese.
That's not the right way.
Okay.
So.
We'll go with it. Adam Saltese. So Adam and I are meeting for the first time here. You're up to some cool stuff. You're out in British Columbia. We're here in Ontario. The stuff you're doing around Koinos, I want to get into. But for anyone listening, I just want to give Adam a little bit of an idea of who he's speaking to. So we started a real estate brokerage out here, Adam. We help people buy rental properties as a store of value or as a way to create cash flow. It's basically real estate, I guess, in the last 25 years to me has become the savings button on the ATM. You know how no one opens like a savings account anymore because it's just useless? Real estate in Canada specifically became the savings button. And we started a business back in 2008 where we were going to help like the mom and pop investor start getting into real estate. So if they wanted to add a rental property to their portfolio and they really had nowhere to turn, we would take them by the hand and go out and help them buy a student rental or a single family home rental or a duplex and something like that. And we would stay with them forever. So we would help them find tenants. And if they had problems, they could call us. And this has turned into a brokerage where we now have like 20 different classes on all types of real estate investing. Our accountants come in, our paralegals come in, property managers, our team is giving classes. So we're kind of about educating people about real estate. That naturally led to macroeconomics and interest rates because the biggest variable that we couldn't control in our own real estate investing was whatever the central bank was going to do with interest rates. Mm-hmm. Like you can control where you buy the property and you could kind of control how good you are at marketing to fill a vacancy, but you couldn't really control what the interest rate was going to be on your mortgage renewal. So then we had to study macroeconomics. When we started studying into macroeconomics, we became gold guys at the same time. So around 2008 to 10, during the great financial crisis, we discovered gold. And we're like, oh my gosh.
That's around when I got into gold too.
Is it? Okay. Same kind of idea. So yeah, we became like these gold guys and we had this idea to have a 3-bucket strategy in your life, like have liquid cash for emergencies and deflation, save money in gold that you weren't going to allocate to the 3rd bucket. So gold would be the 2nd bucket, your longer term savings. 3rd bucket would be kind of like a productive asset bucket, cash flow. So like some rental properties, your own business, that kind of thing. And if you had these 3 buckets, we always thought you could navigate through life with it, whatever comes your way. Because if you had some cash and deflation hits, you have some liquid cash available to you. If you had, if inflation was taking off, you had this gold that was going to protect your purchasing power. And then the last bucket did kind of both things. It produced some cash for you, some income if you had an income producing asset like a good rental property. And if it was a store of value, it would like naturally appreciate in nominal dollar terms. So it like had this savings aspect to it. And then in 2020, during the pandemic, I think you know what I'm about to say next, I read the Bitcoin standard. My mind was blown and we started allocating to Bitcoin. And I'll never forget, I think I bought my first little bit of Bitcoin and I said to myself, okay, I guess that's it. Now I have some of this Bitcoin stuff. I don't really know what I did. I don't even understand this wallet fully, but like I got it. I guess that's it for the Bitcoin. Like I figured it out. I allocated a little bit. And then as it happens to everyone who dives deep into the rabbit hole, you go deeper and deeper and you realize, oh my gosh, I don't really have enough of this Bitcoin. I will never have enough of this Bitcoin. How do I get more of this thing called Bitcoin? And then for the last 4 years, we've been sharing everything we possibly can with Rockstar clients and on this podcast. So you're in good company on the podcast. As I was sharing earlier, Preston was recently on, Jeff Booth's been on multiple times, Lynn Alden has been on, Greg Foss has been on. So a bunch of people talking about Bitcoin. So that's kind of who we are. We're trying to basically help people live life on their own terms. That's why the podcast is called Your Life, Your Terms. And Bitcoin is becoming a main part of that message. And so now we are these strange real estate people, Adam, who talk about real estate and also can't stop talking about Bitcoin. So there you go. Bitcoin is penetrating through multiple things. Yeah. And so for those people who don't know you, and, because I'm just getting to know you as well, could you give me an intro, just like, how did you get to this point you're at now? Like, what is a bit of your background and who are you and what the heck are you about, Adam?
Yeah, I went through a similar kind of journey as you, similar timeline to after the 2008 crisis. I started getting into sound money and gold. And I don't know if you ever watched Mike Maloney.
Oh gosh, yeah. He was like,
series, the history of money or something like that. And I was watching like Khan Academy videos. He did a series on economics and finance, and I started figuring out like the fractional reserve system and looking up like, okay, well, these banks in Canada, like I've been investing in stocks and I had some bank stocks. So I'd get on their earnings calls and stuff. And I was just trying to figure out like, how do you value a company, and what are these banks really doing? Where's their money coming from? And I was trying to look at their reserve ratio, like how much do they actually keep in cash to back up all the deposits that they take from their customers. And I realized like in Canada, we don't have a hard reserve requirement. Like in the States, I think I've heard the number that it was like 10% at one time where.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's ripped up now, but yes, that was the number at one time.
If they take in $100 of deposits, they need to have at least $10 like sitting in liquid cash to be able to pay people out. But I think it's totally gone away now. Like they could take in $100 and have nothing left to back it up with. So they just get to print money, sort of like carte blanche these days. And I was working for the federal government in IT. I'm a software engineer, so that's my background. I did a computer science degree at UBC, and I've mostly been a web developer since high school. I started making websites for local mom and pop businesses and things. So I've always been into tech, and as well as working at the federal government doing internal application development and reports, that I started to question where all the government money comes from and goes to. And I realized
you were in the belly of the beast.
I was, yeah. So that's when I started reading about libertarianism and Austrian economics, and I got really into open source software because I felt like, well, the government has all these big contracts with Microsoft and IBM and SaaS, and they get all this enterprise software that taxpayers are paying for. And all the money that comes into the government, all the tax money, they have like a very high level budget that you can review, but you can't get down into the details of where is the money going.
Yeah. And
it started to frustrate me that the government wastes so much money and is so opaque about it. So yeah, I was kind of having these thoughts float around when Bitcoin appeared on my blog feed or something one day, and I realized it solves everything. We can fix the money, and then.
What year was that? When was that, Adam?
I think it was late 2011, 2012. I started getting into it.
Okay.
And. Yeah, like
I'm gonna just add Cole. I'm gonna add Cole in with us here. But keep going. We're gonna keep going. Then Cole's in with us here. But Adam, keep going. Cole, we're gonna come to you in a minute. We're coming to you in a minute.
Yeah, just turn my intro.
Yeah, keep going, Adam. Keep going.
All right. So yeah, I went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, and then I immediately wanted to share the good news with people and let them know that there's this thing that fixes the money system and is going to better society as a result. So I started going around and trying to tell all my friends and family to get some Bitcoin, and then any acquaintances I would run into, I'd start talking about Bitcoin to them.
Yeah, you were the annoying Bitcoiner like we all are. So yeah. And remind me, when Cole came on here, I lost my train of thought for a split second. When was that? What year was that when you just got into Bitcoin?
2012 is when I started really talking about it.
Okay.
So I'd go to like local small businesses. I'd, tell the coffee shop owner, like, hey, why don't you take Bitcoin payments? And
you were telling people this in 2012?
Yeah, I was trying to get people into it.
Smokes.
And I did. I got a lot of people into it. I was a local trader. I was on local Bitcoin. So if people wanted to buy Bitcoin for cash, they would find me online and we'd meet up and I'd sell them Bitcoin and take their cash, or vice versa. There's people who had Bitcoin and they'd want to cash it out. So I'd give them cash for their Bitcoin. And I just went around town on my bicycle, meeting up with people in dark alleys and McDonald's and Starbucks and these cash deals, over-the-counter Bitcoin trades. And I used it as an opportunity to educate people on it because I'd already sort of, gone through all the skeptical questions of what is it, how is this going to work, and I found there's answers on the forums and in IRC channels. All these really smart developers have been working on it already and have answers for all these questions about it. So I was trying to, educate myself on it, and then, let other people know all these things as well. And then, we started a Bitcoin.
Sorry, when I just need to know, when you were doing this in 2012, there were some businesses who were open to the idea of accepting Bitcoin back then?
A few, yeah.
Okay, and just for them to accept Bitcoin back then, like how the heck were you getting them to accept Bitcoin back then? You would set them up with
I would set them up with a wallet on their phone. I was using blockchain.info at the time. It's like a web wallet. So they'd get a self-custodial on-chain Bitcoin wallet where you have your own keys and stuff, but it's
okay. So even then, there was a mobile option. Okay,
yeah.
Okay, got it.
And so they would get a Bitcoin address, and we would just put that up in a QR code, and that's when I started developing Coinos as like a web front end to that. So you could put in your address from whatever wallet you're using, and Coinos would tell you when you got a payment, and it would do the conversion from Canadian dollars to Bitcoin. So the merchant could type in like $5, and then Coinos would say, okay, that's X amount of Bitcoin, and then give the customer a QR to send the payment to, and then it would notify the merchant when the payment came into their address. So it started as like a one-page app to do that sort of thing, and then record all the payments so the merchant could see this is when it came in, and it was worth $5 at the time of the sale. And that was something that other wallets weren't doing at the time. They weren't recording the fiat value, which is something that business owners really need so they can, track their income and stuff in dollar terms, not in Bitcoin terms. And so, I sort of just kept on improving it and tweaking it and modifying it until it is what it is today. And we support the Lightning Network now, so it works a lot better than it used to, because you can do instant finality and pretty much no
okay
fee.
So then just so everyone's clear, Adam, and I don't know if this is a good time to bring in Cole and introduce Cole to everyone, but how would you describe Coinos today? Like when someone stumbles upon you guys, what is it that you say to describe what Coinos is?
It's a Bitcoin wallet, so it's a free web wallet. You can go to our website, you make an account with just a username and password. There's no KYC. We don't ask for your email even, or your number or address or anything. So you can make up a fake name, get an account, and then you have a Bitcoin wallet you can receive into, because it starts with no balance. So you have to earn Bitcoin either by earning it the old-fashioned way by selling goods and services and running a business, and people pay you for things that are valuable to them. Or you can fund your wallet if you have Bitcoin that you've bought on an exchange, or you've bought peer-to-peer from someone with cash. You can put it into your Coinos wallet and then use it as a spending wallet. So it's for both business owners and just regular individuals who want a convenient spending wallet that's on the web. It's no setup required. There's nothing to download or install. You just log into our website, and it's an account like you would have with your online banking or something.
So if there was a business owner listening that said, somebody walked in their door and said, you know what, I want to pay you in Bitcoin, and that business owner was not set up to accept Bitcoin, they could go to your website, quickly just make an account with username, password kind of thing, and then they're going to have this QR code that they could show somebody that person could then just send them Bitcoin, and they'll be accepting Bitcoin. So it sounds like in a matter of
it's
go
about
ahead.
5 or 10 seconds. Yeah, you go to the homepage, coinos.io. You make a username and password, and there you go. You've got your account. You can either share your QR code, or you can just tell the customer your username, and they can pay to your username. So if you go to like coinos.io/Adam, that's my username is Adam. So I get this public page at the Coinos website that anyone can go to, and there's a button there to pay to Adam. So, and then if you click that button, you'll see my Lightning address, which is adam@coinos.io. You can send me a Lightning payment, or there's an option to do on-chain or liquid payments as well.
Got it. Wow. Okay, and that's the goal, to make it easy for business owners? It sounds like anyone, I'm just using the example business owner, to present a solution for them to be able to accept Bitcoin pretty quickly and easily. That's the whole goal?
Yeah, business owners or anyone who wants to get a Bitcoin wallet in a matter of seconds and be able to receive a payment. And then it's also useful as just a spending wallet too. So if you go into the menu there, you can find our map, and you can find all the merchants in your local area that are accepting Bitcoin payments. So like in Vancouver, we've got about 60 businesses that will take Bitcoin, and you can go and find them, go in, buy yourself a sandwich or coffee, or get yourself a haircut. There's a number of different businesses that you can go to, and you can use Coinos to pay them. So it's useful just to have a little bit of spending money, rather than having to pull out your cold storage hardware wallet or have some sort of Bitcoin wallet that you set up on your phone. This is just a website that anyone can access pretty much instantly from any device. So it's a convenient spending wallet as well.
And then how do you, Adam and Cole, how do you guys cross paths? Cole, when do you enter the picture here?
Yeah, I entered Bitcoin in 2014, like late 2014, early 2015 kind of thing. I think my first Bitcoin was a few $100s or something like that. I heard about Bitcoin in 2013, didn't believe it, didn't trust it. I was busy working my 9-to-5 at the time. Thought it was a scam, totally, because I didn't understand it. The only time I've thought negative about Bitcoin in most cases is because I just didn't understand it. So I ended up doing pretty well with Bitcoin as an investment specifically, and mining. I got pretty deep into mining, deep in the sense where not on a big scale like institutional scale, but deep in the sense where my whole income at one point was from mining, because I had a commercial operation. Oh, like straight up. Oh yeah. Straight up. Yeah. One of my places that I was living in at the time, I used all the electricity of my place. I barely had enough electricity to even run my toaster. My toaster would go, and it would, that was one of the places I was like living at the time, right? So I used all the electricity I could. So then that led me to, I left my 9-to-5 in 2021, and I decided to go all in on Bitcoin. Some people would say that's irresponsibly long. Yeah, I am irresponsibly long Bitcoin. I am. Some people would say no. My traditional financial advisor would say don't do that. But and then I met Adam in 2022 at one of the local Bitcoin meetups. And it's funny, at that meetup when I met Adam, I was kind of on my way out, and I was just finished talking to a bunch of people, and I was just kind of like wanting to get going and leave. And then when I was just about to leave, and Adam's like, "Hey, how's it going?" In my mind, I'm like, "Oh, okay, now I gotta talk to another person and be nice." And stuff. But it was actually like the best connection I made that whole day. Right? It's just funny how that happens. And then over time, I've been helping Coinos onboard merchants around the world, and that's kind of how me and Adam met. And then just over the years, me and Adam have just been developing a closer connection in business, and figuring out how we each like to do things and stuff like that. And it seems it's a great success so far, knock on wood.
So Cole, are you literally going around like door to door meeting businesses and trying to get them to accept Bitcoin? Or help me out here. Is it like that what you're doing?
It's both. It's physically going to stores, door to door, like that. I've done a lot of that, door knocking or just walking into stores, quite literally, and emailing follow-ups as well. So the answer to your question is yes, that's what I'm doing. And then me and Adam, we're also talking to ambassadors in many other areas. So we have multiple ambassadors in Vancouver and ambassadors in other cities in Canada and countries. We're totally international as long as Bitcoin is legal in that country, obviously. So that's kind of how we've also a good thing that's contributed to the bigger size of our growth is when we talk to leaders of other communities and then getting them to talk to their followers or just their community. So been doing a lot of that as well.
And then when you talked, was one of you in St. Catharines recently? Did I see that? No, I thought I saw somebody post something somewhere that they were like, I'm in St. Catharines and they're going to use Koinos at this place. Maybe that was an ambassador of yours or something. Anyway, it could be just a poor memory of mine, but I thought I saw that.
Yeah, I think maybe you did see that. I think that kind of rings a bell a little bit. But yeah, it's probably one of our ambassadors somewhere.
Okay.
And I know Niagara Falls in Ontario, we got the first gas station in Canada's history to accept Bitcoin. I literally paid for my gas with Bitcoin.
No,
so I
cool.
paid, yeah, straight up. Yeah, I gassed, went inside, whoop. Yeah.
That gas station, was that like an independent owner that you happened to speak to the owner who was willing to do that?
So no, I like that you brought that up. It was an independent owner, but it's an Esso gas station. It's not just some.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. But they happen to own an Esso gas station. They were willing to do that. Wow.
Real estate investing isn't always easy, but it can be relatively simple. And that's where the Rockstar Inner Circle comes in. Look, there's a lot of real estate investing information out there these days. That's why it's so important to pick your sources wisely. And even though investing isn't always going to be the easiest process, it does not have to be super complicated. That's where tried, tested, and proven strategies like the ones that Rockstar members use come into play. Everything shared in the Inner Circle is built from firsthand, on the streets experience in the current market. It's all up to date, things that people are actually implementing today. In fact, the ongoing courses are delivered live, so they're always up to date with the absolute latest real life experiences. As a Rockstar member, get ongoing access to over 20 different systems and programs covering things like which properties investors like and why, our private rental system, what opportunities the investors are scooping up in student housing currently, the legal side of investing, why or how to use corporations as an investor, a mortgage class with the absolute latest options and programs to build your portfolio as an investor because they're different than a regular home buyer. And there's a whole ton more in all those different classes. Of course, to implement all these strategies, members get access to unlimited private one-on-one coaching with an actual human experienced investor, not an AI chatbot, not ChatGPT or anything like that. It goes beyond training classes in real estate. It's a community for people looking to take control of their own finances, to give themselves options and allow them to live life on their terms. With ongoing live and virtual opportunities to connect, it's built for investors by investors. You can see everything members get at rockstarinnercircle.com/member. It's rockstarinnercircle.com/member. Now back to the show.
Okay, so I'm curious, when you're speaking to people right now, what can you for those people who are tracking Bitcoin a little bit, what could you tell them? Are you seeing any trends where some people are asking about it in different ways or asking you different questions? Because you guys have both been in this space for some time now. I feel like you've seen a lot compared to me. I kind of onboarded myself in 2020. So my journey is only 4 years compared to you guys. Where are we in the evolution of this thing? What trends have you seen or any different questions or anything you could share on that front for either of you?
Yeah, I think the fundamentals remain the same as they were when Bitcoin first launched, that you kind of touched on. Like you said, people were moving from having a traditional savings account that used to pay a decent rate of return to looking at moving to real estate and gold as a form of sound money. And then Bitcoin came along and it has all these properties that make it just the best form of investment we can have because it's scarce like gold and real estate, but it's also easier to secure and take with you. It's more portable. And you can take it across borders or send it across borders in an instant. It's really hard to counterfeit. So gold is like, you can have fake gold bars and things. And gold is kind of cumbersome. You have to store it somewhere, and it can be confiscated from you. So Bitcoin is like gold 2.0, right? And it's more liquid than real estate. Again, like real estate could be seized if the government came and knocked on your door, and it's taxed. It's really hard to avoid letting the government know that you have real estate. So Bitcoin is nice. It's the Swiss bank account in your pocket that Obama mentioned a while ago.
Jeez, throwing up an Obama line there. There we go. But yeah, got it. Yeah.
And more people are catching on to that. So now that there's institutional acceptance of it with the ETFs, there's more of a positive outlook on it, I think, from the mainstream, that people are saying, okay, well, it's not just this money for criminals and this sketchy thing online. It's not just some Ponzi scheme that this weird Adam guy is trying to get me to invest in. Big money is starting to come in. Michael Saylor is owning billions of dollars worth with a publicly traded company, and there's nation states starting to come on board to Bitcoin, like El Salvador. So it's getting more and more legitimate. And I don't watch the mainstream media anymore. I don't know if they're continuing to be as negative as they used to be, but I think they're just quiet on it now. Like they don't say anything about it. They're just not saying positive things about it, but they're not actively trying to, discourage people from it either. So when we're approaching business owners and stuff, they're a lot more just neutral on it, I find these days, than outright negative that they used to be. And so it's becoming easier to say, hey, it's just it's another way to take payments from your customers. It's cheaper than taking credit card payments because you're not going to pay the 3% to the middleman. And you get this very vibrant community of Bitcoiners that are going to come and shop at your store and support you if you take this form of payment. So it's kind of getting to be an easy sell.
I'm going to ask Cole this question too in a second, but Adam, for you, with your programming background, what was the thing about it that when you started to look into it, you thought, oh, this is going to work? Like for me, I didn't understand it was finite at first. Like I had never looked into it at that depth at all. As embarrassing as that is to say, I didn't know that it was like this finite thing. And I didn't know how decentralized it was. Like I didn't understand that I could run a node myself and have the whole ledger like here in the Rockstar office. And that because of that, it would be very difficult to shut this thing down. So once I understood that, and I understood this thing was finite, and then I started to piece together miners and like how that all worked. That was a little harder for me to understand. But I needed to understand some of these like technical things about the nodes and the decentralization of them for me to begin to accept that like, oh my gosh, like this thing is out there. Like there's no going back. Like this thing is out there and we're not going back. Was because of your background, was there some moment or some characteristic of Bitcoin on all its different components that made you think, oh yeah, like this is going to work?
Yeah, it took a couple of months of questioning it, but I was lucky to get in early because there wasn't as much noise and scammers and people with YouTube channels trying to sell you on other altcoins and all this stuff that comes along with Bitcoin now. For someone who's trying to get into it now, there's all this noise to wade through to find the signal, right? But back then it was mostly libertarian cypherpunks and coders who were focused on it and getting into it then. So to learn about it, I ended up on these forums and in IRC channels, hearing directly from the source, from the developers on GitHub and from Satoshi directly. Like you can go and read what he was saying about it. And so all these questions I had about it were being answered by people who were deep into it and actually building it and had kind of gone really through all the process of coming at it with all
your questions could be answered. You were having the questions and then like almost in real time getting them answered by people pretty knowledgeable directly from it.
Yeah, there was like an FAQ on the Bitcoin wiki that had a lot of questions that someone new might ask, and it was all answered pretty well. And then I got to download it and run a full node, and like you didn't have to sync hundreds of gigabytes of data back then. So to get started with Bitcoin, you wouldn't go and sign up at an exchange or something to get started with it.
But did you have a moment that
Bitcoin and run it?
Yeah, but did you have a moment where you? Like, what was it like? Did you understand cryptography enough, or the idea of mining? Like, did you have a moment where you're like, well, someone's going to hack this, like it'll be hacked and I'm not going to use it as savings account because like it's going to be hacked. Like, did you have like that kind of thought process or no, that was one of the questions. Okay.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like before I was sold on it, I assumed that it would be hacked or wondered if it could be hacked. So, I read the white paper. That was one of the things that introduced me to it. And there is a blog post by a security researcher named Dan Kaminsky, who's passed away now, but he looked at Bitcoin as from the perspective of how can I break it? And he was really good at breaking things. Like he's a hacker who did that for a living. So he went and looked at Bitcoin and he tried to break it. He spent a few months looking at the source code and he found that it was brilliantly designed and Satoshi had already put in measures to fix anything that he could think of that might be some sort of exploit or, way to get it to do something it shouldn't do. Satoshi had already done a good job at patching all that somehow. So he wrote a blog post about it and said, hey, I tried to break this thing and I couldn't.
Got it.
And that was like, okay, I knew about him already. Like Dan Kaminsky was well known. So that boosted my confidence in it. And then when I got deeper into the forums and started to see guys like Peter Wolla and Gregory Maxwell and Blue Matt Corallo and Luke Jr. and all these core developers that some of them are still working on Bitcoin today, that they were all collaborating and working openly on GitHub to improve this thing. And they were thinking about all these, issues that could come in the future and we're already working on solutions for those. So I got to see very quickly that it was legitimate and that there was really smart people behind it and improving it constantly.
Wow. Yeah. I never really thought about the lack of noise you had. Because now if someone just looks it up, they're going to see how many like garbage articles on just nonsense about it that you kind of have to sift through to get some of to the core meat of it all. I never really thought about that approach. That's pretty interesting. So you were in it so early. Did you ever spend like 100 Bitcoin on like a chocolate chip cookie that you regret about or something? I can't imagine being in it on that early. Did you ever do something silly like that?
Yeah, I spent Bitcoin back in the day and I'll never get it back. So.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. And then, so Cole, for you, did you was there a similar thought process for you? What was there a thing about it that made it click? Like, how did you, I guess I'm trying to get into your mind and go like, how back then did you come to the conclusion like, oh yeah, like this is legit. Like this is something that's going to live on and can't be really shut down. What was it?
Yeah, so what was convincing to me was the setting of the people of who I was meeting with and the setting of everything that convinced me. It was like one of those things where if your best friend, Tom, or one of your closest friends called you up and be like, hey, Tom, I came across something that's incredible and it's going to change the world. Come meet me at my house and we're gonna talk about it because I can't talk about it on the phone or whatever. if one of your best friends called you, you'd go to his house, right? So I went.
That's by the way, that's kind of the message I did to a few of my friends in 2020. Like, hey, listen, look, I think you're gonna think I'm crazy, but I need to talk to you about something very serious here.
There you go. Exactly. So then when I went to my friend's place, it was just me, him, and a couple other friends of ours, and we were all like alone in this room, and it was a very kind of serious setting, and we're all talking about like how much it's going to change the world and how not many people have caught on to it yet. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So I was very emotional towards it, and my emotions of how secretive I felt about it. I felt cool being in on this new technology before everybody else. It was those emotional thoughts that made me dive in. And then I did a little bit of research into it. And then after that, I was essentially orange pilled at that time. Yeah. And then I didn't hold everything since then. I wish I did, but I still lacked a little bit of confidence. I thought it could be hacked as well. But then Adam said that once he learned more about it, he realized it was more robust. But that was why I didn't go all in 2014, 2015, because I thought it could be hacked. And the reality is when we look back at Bitcoin, when the hash rate was way, way lower in 2011, 2012, 2013, like if we didn't have, like Bitcoin's had a couple exploits. It's had two issues with its code in the early days. 2010 was one of them, and I think maybe 2013 was the other one. It's had two, but we're all past that, and they don't exist anymore because they essentially they came up with a new update with Bitcoin in 2010 to get rid of that previous bug that was in it. So Bitcoin didn't have a group of, like what Adam said, some very, very smart cryptographers and developers in Bitcoin Core. If Bitcoin didn't have that in its early days, I can't say that Bitcoin would still be alive and thriving today. But the fact that we're past that now, and the hash rate is way, way higher now. It's so high that it's virtually it's almost at a point where it's unhackable. You can't say anything's perfect, but the hash rate is so high that even the strongest supercomputers can't technically hack it, if you know what I mean, right? But we can't say absolutes because we don't know the future, obviously, but it's very, very robust, and the hash rate is so powerful right now. And Bitcoin's hash rate was reaching all-time highs when the price of Bitcoin was at all-time lows in 2022. I follow that. Hash rate up and to the right, up and to the right. Bitcoin's price was like all-time lows. Lightning network capacity also up and to the right constantly throughout 2022. So that's evidence that the popularity, the use cases of Bitcoin and Lightning Network were all-time highs even when the price is low, which shows how strong the network is and the following it has and the user base, how dedicated the user base is.
And then just quickly for anyone listening in, when you hear Cole mention hash rate, just think about that as like the amount of computing power that's in the mining network, that if you were gonna try and like mess with Bitcoin, you would have to have more computing power than all of the Bitcoin miners. And sometimes we refer to that as the hash rate. And right now, I think it's hitting all-time highs right now again. I think I just looked a couple of days ago. I think it's.
Is it? I didn't know. I didn't know it's hitting all-time highs right now. That's cool to know.
Don't hold me to that. I think it is. Don't hold me to that. I thought I saw that a couple of days ago, but
last time I checked, it was like hovering up near all-time highs.
Like yeah, got it. Cool. Okay, maybe that's what I saw. Okay.
I wanted to. Can I just add something else?
Of course, yes.
Quickly? Yeah. On the topic, some naysayers talk about Bitcoin having like a 51% attack or a double spend attack. So I've looked in depth with a lot of things like this and possibilities. And the amount of time and effort and energy and like money that it would take for someone to 51% attack, that's like 10 Elon Musks all getting together, building multi-billion-dollar mining farms all together. Like for the time and energy it would take for them to do that, it's not even worth the money that they would make from a successful double spending attack, because a successful double spending attack wouldn't get very far. People think the whole thing is screwed. The whole Bitcoin network's screwed, but it wouldn't get very far. They would be able to double spend maybe one or two transactions. Like it wouldn't get far. And the money they would have to spend to get to even one or two double spends, it's not even worth their time. It's financially more worth their time to just hold Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, once you start to go down that route and you understand that and you're comfortable with it, it's a game changer. It's blown me away. This whole Bitcoin thing has completely blown me away. Like sometimes I feel like it's just this weird miracle that it exists. You know, I'm sure you guys have had that kind of same thinking. Like, it's just like, how are we possible that this thing exists and that we're in this unique point in time where we had like this fiat currency, like we had gold for thousands of years. And it seems like the new digital future is going to be Bitcoin to me. It doesn't seem like, I feel like it's very definitively going to be that. And then we just had like this middle messy period of like, oh, what were these funny currencies here in the middle that like were really not even backed by gold? And like, what was that? Like, who were those humans that like were dealing with that? Oh, I feel sorry for them. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh yeah, like that was us. That was like, yeah, that was my generation. That was like us, you know, here we are. But at least it exists now. Adam, were you about to say something?
No, just agreeing with you on that.
Yeah, got it. Okay, so then for anyone listening, what can you guys tell us about the Lightning Network, whether it would be usage or technical architecture, whatever comes to mind, just for someone who's new to Bitcoin? Are you seeing people use this thing? Can one of you maybe describe it? What can you tell us about it for either one of you?
Sure, I'll take that. So Lightning Network is a new upgrade to Bitcoin that came along in 2018 or so, about 5 years ago. And before that existed, if you want to send a Bitcoin transaction, the sender pays the fee, right? And the fee is optional, but if you want your transaction to get mined or get confirmed into the blockchain so that it can be considered final or irreversible, then you need to pay a competitive fee so that you can get into the next block. And there's about 3,000 transactions can fit into a block at a time. So if more than 3,000 people are trying to send payments all at once within the same 10-minute period, then they can't all make it in, right? So the highest paying fee transactions get prioritized and they get to get processed faster than all the other ones. And so if you lowball on the fee and you set it too low, then your transaction isn't going to confirm right away. And then if you're trying to pay for a coffee or something, you're buying something from someone with Bitcoin, they're going to have to wait until that transaction confirms to be, guaranteed that you're not going to double spend those Bitcoins, like spend the same coins back to yourself. And then it becomes like a race where the miners just decide which one to process first. And you could end up kind of screwing the merchant over if that transaction doesn't confirm. So this was the situation before the Lightning Network existed, where if I went into one of these coffee shops and paid in Bitcoin on chain, they would have to either trust me that I'm not going to try to reverse the transaction, or they would have to wait that 5 or 10 minutes to get a confirmation. Or if I didn't set a high enough fee, they'd have to wait longer, up to hours or days potentially.
You could be stuck there with your coffee, 3 days later waiting to pay.
It worked okay when people weren't kind of double spending and the blocks weren't full, the network wasn't very busy, you could pay really low fees and get processed right away. That worked for a few years, but then it started to become clear that it wasn't going to continue to work that way because more and more people were getting into Bitcoin, the network was getting busier, fees were going up. And if you wanted to get your transaction processed in a timely manner, you'd have to pay like $20 during like peak times of the network. So it wasn't going to work for buying coffees if that was the case. But luckily, the Lightning Network came along, some clever people figured out a way to do Bitcoin payments off-chain, where you don't need all the payments to confirm into the blockchain. You can sort of run these like tabs, I call them, like it's called a Lightning channel, where you set up an account with someone and you fund it once, and then you can send that money in the account back and forth amongst yourselves as much as you want without having to settle it into the blockchain until you're ready to close the account and like take the money out of the tab. So, and this is done in a trustless way where the person that you're doing that with, you don't have to ever trust that they're gonna, close the account out and give you your share of the money. It's done in a way where you're guaranteed to get what you're owed. So you can have all these payments that settle instantly and they cost pretty much nothing. You can do these Bitcoin payments and then you only have to settle it out on chain periodically when you want to like move your money to your cold storage wallet or something like that. So we incorporated Lightning into Coinos pretty early on, like 2018 or 19, when it was still kind of new and not a lot of people were using it, because we knew we were going to need a solution for these small retail payments in, brick and mortar type of businesses. So we were early adopters of Lightning, and I think Coinos is still one of the easiest Lightning wallets to get started with because we take care of setting up all the channels to all these other payment processors and Lightning nodes. So our users don't have to do any of that. They just register an account with us and they get to use our Lightning node. So when you go to pay someone from your Coinos wallet, we're sending the payment from our server on your behalf. And it just works very easily. You don't have to worry about how the Lightning Network works or is implemented under the hood. You just type in like a dollar amount that you want to send, and you can send it to someone by just typing in their username or their Lightning address. And
I guess for then anyone, just to kind of summarize, I guess for anyone listening to this, the beauty of this is that if you're a business owner and you want to accept Bitcoin and you set up this Coinos Coinos wallet, you can accept payments like instantly. Like someone sending you Bitcoin, if they're using your wallet, you're going to get payment. It's possible to get the payment instantly. So like, even if you're selling a coffee, no one has to stand around. You kind of send the payment, you instantly get the payment. The person who bought the coffee can walk out the door. You have the Bitcoin. And then when you want to, you can remove the Bitcoin from that wallet that you set up with you guys to a different wallet if you wanted to. So that, like, let's say the balance grew there to $200, $500, $1,000, whatever. Every day or every week, you could take the Bitcoin that you've accumulated in that wallet to another wallet if you wanted to, where you had custody, or if you wanted to separate it out of that wallet, which is really beautiful. When I was using that at that cheat code conference that Peter McCormick was hosting in Bedford, I was buying espressos, like, just tapping on the phone, and the merchants were all taking Lightning around the conference, and it worked just like seamlessly. It was completely beautiful just to be going around. But after doing that for, a day or so, you got so addicted to spending like that you wanted to do it all the time. It just felt silly, like doing all these other kind of banking, and because, I was having Canadian dollars and I was trying to exchange them over, and like I couldn't use Interac in England. And, so like you're using Visa more often, and just the exchange rate. So just the old system seems so messy. Once you were just using Lightning for like one day, for the whole day, that was all it took to be like, wow, why can't I just do this all the time? Right. So then, I guess, Cole, for you, when you're talking to business owners, are there any technical limitations that somebody setting this up with you guys should be aware of, like throughput? Like, can people use it for some transactions, or is there a transaction threshold with you guys that's not possible? Like, what are some of the parameters that you might talk to some business owners and say, it works for you if you're doing this, but it might not work for you if you're doing that? Are there any?
Yeah, it's very rare that we've never actually turned away a business before. As long as the business is legal, we can process all kinds of transactions, except it would get a little bit complicated if we were to process real estate transactions, like $500,000 purchases.
Yeah, makes
sense.
That would get because there's just not enough liquidity in the Lightning network. Correct? Is that what's happening there?
Not necessarily, because we still deal with on-chain Bitcoin as well. So Coinos, yeah. So that's a good question you brought up. But Coinos, since Coinos does, we store the majority of our Bitcoin, or we store it all in Lightning as default, right? So if someone had the non-custodial setting on their Coinos account, if they were to have that, they could technically receive $500,000. So they could do that, but it does. That would be a little bit. We can still process it, but we are more geared towards the lower ticket items, higher volume places. So like mom and pop shops, like barbers, butchers, gas stations, liquor stores, restaurants. We're focused more on those. There's a luxury car rental company using us in Miami as well. They don't have sales less than like $800 US, for example, right?
Got it.
So there's no really threshold, but the Lightning Network can sometimes be a little bit skewy a little bit when you get over to $2,000 purchases or $3,000 purchases, maybe.
Okay.
Adam, do you want to speak on that point specifically about how high transactions should be the max for Lightning transactions with our wallet? It matters on our liquidity.
Yeah. So with Lightning, like I mentioned, you have to have a channel with some sort of payment partner that the money is coming from. And so depending on what wallet you're sending from, if you have a direct channel with us, you could open as big a channel as you want. We have a minimum of 4 million Satoshis, which I think is, I don't know what that is in dollar terms, but there's no maximum. But practically, like our largest channel right now is for one whole Bitcoin, which is about almost 100,000 Canadian. So that would be like the most we could receive over a single channel right now. And that's assuming that channel is all the liquidity is inbound to us. Lightning channels are funny where if our users are sending outbound payments, then our liquidity has to be on our side of the channel for them to be able to send out, whereas it needs to be on our peers' side of the channel for them to be able to send into us. So on any given day, our liquidity fluctuates. That's in our Lightning channels, but we try to maintain it so that we always have like a pretty good amount available for both withdrawals and incoming payments. So yeah, doing like up to $50,000 Canadian worth of Bitcoin over Lightning, it should be doable most of the time. But yeah, like real estate sales, like if you're selling a $2 million home or condo or something, then
I don't think, and for that, I don't think there's any really need to do it on a Lightning transaction for that kind of transaction.
You want to do those on chain.
It does feel pretty frustrating for me to hear. Oh, sorry, Cole. Here, I'll complete this thought and then I'll jump to you. It just sometimes I hear that Lightning doesn't work, and my experience with it has been the direct opposite. I think the most expensive thing I've probably purchased would be maybe 100 or 150 Canadian dollars, and I've never had issues, and it's always been instant. And I've used it quite a lot over the last 2 years. So whenever I see stuff where it's like Lightning doesn't scale or Lightning's not going to work, I'm like, well, when you use it kind of the way it's intended to be used, and you guys probably understand the technical backend and could see maybe where some of the bottlenecks might be, but as a user on my side, I've just never had any issues. Like it's worked seamlessly 100% of the time. Anytime I've demoed it, like it's always worked.
Yeah, that's gotten better a lot over the last couple of years, especially.
Yeah, so I guess you guys have seen more where you can see where like it was evolving, but like just from my side, it's like I've just never had an issue.
It's hard too when merchants try to set up their own Lightning node, then you have to establish all these channels.
Okay. So if you're trying to set it up yourself, yeah. But I think that's the thing that you guys are alleviating now. Like you really don't have to. Coinos now, you don't need to.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, so like that's like when we're explaining when Adam is explaining about like how we are able to process large Lightning transactions, it does come across as complicated to a lot of people, and maybe just some of the viewers of the podcast. Yeah. But the good thing is that it's the user doesn't need to think about that as much, because the fact that we're custodial Lightning by default, we also have our non-custodial on-chain wallet built in that you can add if you want as well. Mm-hmm. So the user doesn't really need to worry about how complicated Lightning is. But to manage your own Lightning node, I would rate that as pretty complicated, because even some people struggle with Bitcoin nodes sometimes, but you can get like an umbrella that makes it easier. But running your own Lightning node is what can get a little bit complicated. But if you use a wallet like Coinos that has Lightning channels open with some of the biggest other Lightning wallets in the world, you won't have issues with Coinos that much because we have channels open with those other Lightning wallets, right?
Mm-hmm. So where do you guys see this headed now with Coinos? Like, it seems like to me, it's cool that you have that many people in Vancouver. It'd be nice to get more and more people in the Toronto area using it. So hopefully we can help a little bit spread the word here. Where do you guys see, is Lightning a solution and Coinos kind of a gateway into this stuff that you just see keeps growing? Is that what you're seeing from some trends or some data? Like, where are we headed with this? What can you share with us? Are you seeing any data around that? Like, what insights do you have around that?
I think we are seeing a lot of adoption with Bitcoin. There's a great site, btcmap.org. You can go and see all the businesses in the world that people have added to the map that are accepting Bitcoin payments. Huh. And it's kind of been exploding over the last year or two.
Okay. Wow.
And I think the trend is, fiat money is going to continue to get inflated and debased out of existence. So people are going to be looking for better places to park their wealth and their assets. And Bitcoin is the best designed store of value you've ever seen. So more people are going to be buying it just to protect their money. And once more people have Bitcoin sitting there, they're going to naturally think, okay, well, what if I could spend this directly without having to cash it out first to pay exchange fees and stuff in order to go and live off it and pay my expenses or buy my groceries and day-to-day items. I think more people are going to want to cash out their Bitcoin once they get to that point where they have enough. They've moved their savings into it, and now they want to live off it. And we're going to see more people earning in Bitcoin as well. Like now that there's merchants accepting it for payment, it's going to be natural for them to say, okay, can I start to pay my staff with Bitcoin instead of dollars, or can I pay my suppliers with it? So we're really just trying to build that circular economy where we're getting Bitcoin into the hands of more people through a kind of grassroots movement. And once more people get it and hold it for a while and it appreciates in value, then they're going to start to want to spend it. And it's just going to snowball. We're going to get more and more merchants saying, okay, well, I'll take your Bitcoin from you. So they'll start to accept it, and they're going to save on credit card fees and stuff by doing that. So it just makes sense for them.
I want to add to Tom. You mentioned are you in Toronto, Tom?
We're on a suburb, Oakville. I don't know how well you know the area, but we're west side of Toronto in Oakville. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So speaking of that, I've been talking to Scott Wolf and Emma and Craig and Gabe. Okay. Yeah. The Toronto BGC Collective. Scott's got a few different. Scott actually, I think he manages 3 Bitcoin collectives in Toronto GTA. I think. So.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, he's got like 3 or 4 Twitter accounts or something. So I've been talking to them, and they're looking to build more Bitcoinization out there in Toronto. And I've had a couple video calls with them where we're just like, talking about like what works for us.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So it's
I just feel like we all need to do our part a little bit on that. I just think at one of our next events we sell T-shirts, and we should just set up Coinos to take payment that way too. We've been talking about the store value aspect of Bitcoin. I'm not sure how many people of our clients want to part ways with their Bitcoin right now. Like you said, people are going to, and I have myself. I just mean sometimes I feel like once you initially get it, you're like, I'm not going to give any away right now. I'm keeping all my Bitcoin. But it evolves into a medium of exchange. We know it must, it needs to, it will continue to, for sure. Yeah.
There comes a point where there comes a point where you have enough and it's like, okay, I want to go and buy a coffee now.
Yeah. When you're new to it, you're in that phase like, I don't have enough, but sure.
In those situations, me and Adam do have some people saying that in the Bitcoin community. Oh, I don't want to spend my Bitcoin because I want to hold on to it. So in those situations, I tell people about the spend and replace, because you have enough money to buy a coffee or buy gas or a liquor store or liquor at a liquor store. So use Bitcoin instead of your dollars. So you're not supporting the fiat system, you're supporting the Bitcoin system. So you're not actually losing Bitcoin when you're spending it, because you have that money in your bank account anyways. So you can put that into Bitcoin, store what I do, and I teach other people, store the majority of your wealth in Bitcoin. You can have an auto DCA. So that's the benefit of spending Bitcoin. One of the benefits of spending Bitcoin compared to spending fiat. So even myself, I don't like selling an asset that's the best asset in the world, but you're technically just switching hands from your wallet to someone else's wallet. It's not being sold on market. Some people forget that. And then it's also, if you have the money anyways, you can do the spend and replace mentality, where you spend $100 at a restaurant, or you spend $500 in a month, load it back up, have an auto DCA or something with whatever spending money that you have in your budget, that kind of thing, right? Because then that way your Bitcoin balance won't actually change, but yet you're still spending it supporting the Bitcoin ecosystem.
Wow. I like that thinking. Yeah. No, that's great. You know what? It gives me kind of great comfort and also hope knowing that you guys are out there doing what you're doing. Like, honestly, like the fact that you guys crossed paths that day, and Cole, you're just spreading the word. Adam I feel like Adam's behind the scenes. Like, I have this vision of him just like working on liquidity channels and like all the stuff that's going on back there. But like to have you guys doing this, from my perspective, it gives me hope that this continues to grow and evolve. So guys, this probably doesn't, I just want to thank you for doing what you're doing, because like you're serving all of us, whether we interact daily or not, like you are. So thank you for doing what you're doing, seriously. And if ever you guys if you guys are out here in the,
we're all on Team Bitcoin here, right? So
we are. Yeah. It's weird how many cool people like yourselves that I'm getting to come across through this network, So it's really, I'm really grateful for it. So anyone listening, go to the website, I guess, coinos.io, correct?
Yep.
You can set up account. It looks like from what I'm seeing, you can set up account. I would call it instantly. So if anyone's like, ready to accept some Bitcoin, you can go there, set it up. You can accept Bitcoin for yourself or your business really quickly. And these guys behind the scenes are going to be handling all the technical stuff. You don't even really have to think about it. Anything else anyone should know on just where to find you guys online, or anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
We probably deleted our Twitter a couple of weeks ago, our X account. So look for us on Nostr. It's the new hot thing for Bitcoiners. It's like a social media platform made by Bitcoiners. It's more decentralized than Twitter.
I think I saw that you guys did that, and Jeff Booth has done that, and I feel like now I'm taking screenshots of what Jeff Booth puts on Nostr and sending it to a couple friends, because I'm like, I know you're not on Nostr, but you need to be reading what he's saying over here. So that
I'm trying to get people to shove to get there.
So the link to Nostr, if you're listening to this, is off your website, correct? I think you can link. I think you guys have it linked. I think I just saw that on your website, coinos.io.
Yeah, it should be at the bottom of our homepage.
Yeah, bottom of your homepage. I think I saw the link. Cole, anything else that you want to share? Just, I don't know, contact information or anything at all?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on social media, like Telegram's a good way to get a hold of me. My email as well is the links on the bottom of the homepage of Canada of Coinos homepage. You'll see ways to contact me there. And
so if you see the Telegram link and you access that, click on that link to access Telegram, you'll be communicating with you, Cole?
Yeah, well, it's going to bring you to the Coinos group chat, and then you'll see my name, Cole.
Okay, got it.
Awesome. In that chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So like a final thought. When I was talking to John Dennehy, have you talked with him before, Tom? By the way, have you met John Dennehy with Me Premier Bitcoin, the founder of Me Premier Bitcoin?
No, I don't think I have. No.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, so he's a pretty big name, and like getting bigger and bigger. What he's doing is really cool, and so he actually goes as far as saying that Bitcoin would be worthless if it wasn't being used as a medium of exchange, right? And when he first said that, I'm like, that's a bit bold. But then me and Adam were like talking about it, and it's kind of true when you look at the early days. The way that Bitcoin started its popularity was when it was being used as a means of exchange. Otherwise, the first thing that I asked in 2013, when I was told about Bitcoin, the first common sense thing that came in my head was, how do I spend it? What can I buy with it? That was the first thing I immediately responded, because that's how humans think and stuff like that. So nowadays, Bitcoin ended up doing something else 100 times better, which is being the greatest store of value in history of mankind. But Bitcoin wouldn't have grown to that if it wasn't being used as a means of payment for things in its early stages. So I just wanted to leave off with
I think you're hitting such a strong point, because if I think back to my gold days, the reason the establishment could somewhat thwart what gold could do was when you can centralize gold the way it was centralized and make it somewhat difficult to use it as a medium of exchange. Like, never mind that it's like a metal that's kind of like clunky to begin with, but when it can be centralized the way it was centralized or has been centralized, you can really kind of control who's trading it, right? And the beauty of Bitcoin to me is that it offers a medium of exchange so much more easily. And we don't want that to go away. And I really think it is, to me, it's a definitive future that Bitcoin is going to win. It's just that we're heavy in the store of value phase still. The medium of exchange phase is like, it's really kind of just evolving right now. And to me, that's what you guys are bringing to the table. And I think that's what the important role that you guys bring to this whole network and community is what you're doing. Like, you're serving this thing where you're helping it extend its use as a medium of exchange. And I think that's absolutely critical for Bitcoin. And maybe I'm just like a little bit too hopeful, where I'm like, yes, of course it's going to work. But I think that because there's guys like you out there, like, doing this, so like the work that you're doing to me is that's why I think you're serving all of us. Like, you're serving the entire network globally. Like, every new person that you guys onboard in, let's say, Vancouver, that's serving everyone around the world, because that's another person who's going to be using it as a medium of exchange, and that protects its store of value usage. So yeah, like that is cool. Like to me, you're hitting on such a huge point that I don't think maybe is discussed enough. I know Jeff Booth is bringing it up a lot. This, sorry, and I forget the person's name you just mentioned. Sounds like they're bringing it up. I think it's like a really important point that we all need to be aware of. So yeah, it's what you guys are doing is huge. So keep fucking going.
Thanks.
Yeah. We need you. We need you to keep going. But guys, thanks. I know you didn't really know us. So really glad to cross paths like this. If you're ever in the area, please come, stop in Oakville, stop in our offices here. And if ever we can somehow help in some capacity, spread the message beyond what we're doing today, it's always an open door. Just please reach out. So thanks, guys. Pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you for having us on.